What if the month you were born is not just a date on the calendar, but a secret sign of the soul? What if there is a victorious month, one that holds not only its most authentic strength, but also the exact point where everything can be started again, in a more conscious, more mature, more personal way? Carl Jung believed that the human soul manifests itself through symbols, cycles, and repetitions. And the month of birth is one of those mysterious marks, a kind of cosmic password that holds deep aspects of your destiny. In this video, you will discover what Jung understood as symbolic time, how his personal month carries a unique psychic mission, and why certain periods of his life seem more difficult, more intense, or more fertile. Here, you will not only understand, but feel. Because by knowing the meaning of your victorious month, something inside you can finally align. And perhaps, for the first time, you realize, it's not too late to start over. Get ready. What comes next can reset your life. From the moment you take your first breath, time begins to tell you a story. But it's not the story the world writes about you, it's the one that comes from within. Carl Jung believed that the soul does not randomly choose the moment of birth. For him, everything is synchronized. There is a dance between what happens outside and what pulsates inside. And the month you arrived in the world carries more than just a season, a weather, or a sign. It carries a code. Perhaps you have never wondered why you were born precisely in that month. January, May, September. This seemed like just a detail on his birth record. But for Jung, no. For him, this data is symbolic. Time, in his view, is not just chronological, it is qualitative. This means that each month carries a psychic energy, a vibration, a call. And your month carries something that you, consciously or not, are trying to accomplish. Have you ever felt that certain times of the year are stronger for you? Have you noticed that there are times when everything flows, and others when it seems that the universe puts you to the test? This may have to do with your birth month, or as Jung would call it, the victorious month of your soul. The one who symbolizes the beginning of your mission, the archetype that governs your purpose. It is as if the soul had chosen to come into the world at that exact point in time because it resonated with what it needed to live, learn, and transform. But why would this month be victorious? Because it marks the beginning of your journey. It contains, symbolically, the gifts, challenges, and learnings that can most set you free. Jung said that the soul is always trying to realize itself. And often for that, he needs to forget who he is, get lost, fall, and then remember more truthfully. The month of birth, therefore, is the starting point of this internal journey. And when you understand it, you don't go back to the beginning, you go back to the purpose. Let's imagine that you were born in March. This month brings the symbol of rebirth, of the passage from winter to spring in various places around the world. It is a time of transition. For Jung, this symbology is no coincidence. Born in March, for example, they can carry a mission linked to renewal, to the balance between past and future. Someone born in August, the month of the lion, of brightness, of affirmation, may be learning to deal with inner power, with the need to show themselves to the world, but in an authentic way, not to please. The central point is, the victorious month is not the one that brings ease, but the one that reveals where your true strength lies. It shows you which is the symbolic path that most awakens your soul. What's more, it offers you the chance to reset. Resetting here does not mean deleting everything and starting from scratch, as if nothing had existed. To reset, for Jung, is to return to the axis of the soul. It is to remember what was forgotten. It's reconnecting with the part of you that knows why it's here. When a person goes into crisis, what is often happening is that he has moved too far away from his symbolic axis. She lost herself. And it is curious to note that, in many of these moments of rupture, the month of birth manifests itself again in mysterious ways. Dates, meetings, dreams, memories. As if the soul said, "Hey, remember what brought you here?" Therefore, knowing the symbolic meaning of your birth month can be a true reunion. It won't tell you everything, it won't predict your destination like a fixed map, but it will light a lantern inside you. He will remember that there is a rhythm, a direction, a meaning. And when you align yourself with that, something changes. You begin to realize that you no longer have to push so hard or run in circles. because now you are acting from a deeper place. He is listening to time with the ears of the soul. The victorious month is the one that invites you to be whole, to recognize the wounds that formed you, but also the talents that sustain you. It is a month that carries the flavor of its calling. And when you reconnect with it, everything can rearrange. It's not magic. It is consciousness. It is the courage to look inside and ask, what did my soul want to tell me when it chose to be born in this month? If you can hear this answer, get ready, because it can really reset your life. Have you ever wondered why certain things always come back to you? Why do some challenges seem to repeat themselves, even at different stages of life? Maybe the answer is hidden in your month. Yes, your birth month may carry hidden symbols that reveal more about you than you realize, and Carl Jung had good reason to believe that. For Jung, nothing that is repeated forcefully in life is by chance. He called this synchronicity, events that have no logical explanation, but have a deep meaning, as if life were trying to tell you something. And the month you were born can be one of those coded messages. Imagine that the month is like a living metaphor. January can symbolize lonely beginnings and hidden ambitions. June, the search for belonging and true love. November, emotional depth and the secrets of transformation. Each month carries a symbolic atmosphere, and if you were born into it, it influences you more than you realize. Jung did not see time as something fixed. He said that psychological time is much more powerful than chronological time. And when he observed patients, he often realized that outstanding personality traits were linked to specific times of the year. As if the unconscious already knew, even before birth, what would be the most fertile ground for certain experiences of the soul. Perhaps your month is ruled by an energy that you have not yet fully accessed. Maybe you were born under the sign of courage, but you spent your life trying to please. Or maybe you came into the world in a period of introspection, but you were thrust into a noisy life. In these distortions, the soul begins to scream, and symptoms appear. Therefore, understanding what is hidden in your month is like digging an inner gold mine. You start to see patterns. You begin to understand why you feel certain pains, why you attract certain relationships, why some paths enchant you and others drive you away. And above all, you begin to recognize who you really are, without the masks that life has been imposing. It's not about astrology or predictions. It's about symbolic language. Jung believed that the psyche speaks through images, metaphors, and sensations. When you connect with the symbol of your month, something inside you recognizes itself. It's as if a sleeping part finally wakes up and says, "Now it makes sense." And do you know what happens when something really makes sense? The resistance disappears. You stop fighting the current and start swimming with it. You stop sabotaging yourself, being late, blaming yourself. Because now you understand, your month was trying to teach you something from the beginning. But maybe you haven't heard. Many people spend their entire lives in conflict with their own nature. He tries to fit into patterns that do not match his essence. And that hurts. Because the soul knows. The soul feels when it is far from its origin. That's why Jung said that the greatest tragedy is to live a life that is not yours. And what can change this course? The awakening to symbolism. When you understand what your month says about you, your strengths, your fears, your callings, you stop running away. You get closer to yourself. And that can reset everything. Let's imagine that you were born in July. This is the month of affection, memory, home. But if you've spent your life walking away from deep bonds for fear of getting hurt, your month may be calling you back to the heart. If you were born in October, the month of adjustments and the search for balance, perhaps your challenge is to learn to make decisions even without guarantees. These are just examples. The most important thing is to understand that your month contains clues. It holds stories that you haven't read yet. And when you start deciphering those stories, everything changes. You stop repeating unconscious patterns and start acting with intention. You stop waiting for the world to tell you who you are, and you start figuring it out for yourself. Because now, you know where you're coming from. You know what your month carries. And you allow yourself to use that energy to your advantage. Jung believed that the human being only becomes whole when he is reconciled with all parts of himself. Even with the time he came into the world. Birth is not just biological, It is spiritual. It is a symbolic point in the map of the soul. And by recognizing this, you gain a key that opens internal doors that had been locked for years. So don't underestimate your month. It may seem simple, but it has subtle complexities. He may have been left aside, but he's all the time trying to remind you, you were born with a purpose. And part of that purpose is hidden in the symbolic atmosphere that welcomed you. Look at your month carefully. Remember what it represents. Notice what always comes back at this time. Pay attention to the dreams that arise, the feelings that intensify. They are clues. And if you can follow them, you'll realize what was hidden in your month. It was always what was missing for you to feel whole. There are times in life when everything seems to be stuck. Nothing moves, doors don't open, relationships don't flow. You try, insist, make plans, look for answers, but it is as if the world is silent. And then the question that haunts me in a low voice arises. Is there something wrong with me? Carl Jung said that these pauses, these silences, are not the end. They are called inwards. These are signs that there is a disconnect between what you live and who you really are. And this disconnect often begins when you ignore the energy of your birth, the true beginning of your story. That's where the victorious month comes in. He does not define you, but reveals you. He doesn't limit you, but he reminds you. And most importantly, it helps you turn the key from stagnation to movement. But this turning point only happens when you have the courage to accept who you are, not the image you've created to please, not the persona you've learned to wear, but the true soul that has come with you since birth. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming who you are, of integrating all the parts of yourself until you find the center. And this process is deeply linked to symbolic time, to the language that the months speak to our unconscious. Each month brings an invitation, a test, a key. But you only see this when you accept to look at yourself with truth. How many times have you fought yourself? Did you try to fit into a job, a relationship, or a lifestyle that didn't match your essence? Perhaps you were born in a month that calls for depth, but you were taught to live on the surface. Or maybe you came into the world in a time of brilliance, but spent your life in hiding for fear of being rejected. And that creates friction. The soul begins to resist. But the soul does not scream like the body. She whispers. It starts with a mild discomfort, then turns into anxiety, then tiredness, then pain. And if you don't listen, she stops everything. It creates breakdowns, ruptures, crises, all to make you wake up. And when you finally decide to stop running away and start accepting your truth, everything starts to turn. The doors open. Ideas flow again. The right connections appear. Not because the world has changed, but because you have changed your inner position. It is at this point that the victorious month becomes more than a curiosity. It becomes a compass. It shows you that time is not against you. He invites you to go back to the origin. And when you do that, when you accept the rhythm of your soul, the turning point happens. But accepting who you are isn't always easy. Often, this means giving up the perfect image, control, logic. It means diving into parts of you that have been rejected, hidden, forgotten. And this dive is scary, but it is also liberating. Have you ever noticed that the happiest people are those who seem to be aligned with something invisible? They don't live to prove anything. They simply are. They don't follow the clock of the world, they follow internal time. And this is only possible when you accept who you are. Carl Jung said that everything we deny in ourselves ends up controlling us. But everything we accept turns into strength. Therefore, accepting what your month carries, the shadows and the lights, is the first step to turning the key to your life. And it's not about changing everything overnight. It's not about throwing everything up. It's about making small daily alignments, which reconnect you with your truth. It's about silencing a little bit to listen to your intuition. It's about remembering that your soul knows the way, even when your mind doesn't. Sometimes you just need to say to yourself, I allow myself to be who I am. I accept my soul's time. And this, as simple as it may seem, can change everything. Because from that moment on, you start acting authentically. You stop sabotaging yourself. You forgive yourself. And above all, you get closer to your real purpose. The turning point is not marked by external events. It happens when you change inside. when he stops fighting against his nature and starts living in accordance with it, when it honors its origin, its month, its essence. And then life responds. The paths are cleared. Decisions become lighter. Time seems to play in his favor. That is why the victorious month is not only symbolic. He is an anchor. It reminds you of where you came from and at the same time propels you to where you should go. It rescues the thread that connects you to your mission, even if you forgot about it a long time ago. And life changes, yes, when you accept who you are. Not because everything is easy, but because you finally find strength in the right place, within yourself. You stop seeking external validation. You understand that you don't have to prove yourself anymore. You just live, with presence, with truth, with courage. And at that very moment, the turning point happens. Many people carry pains that they do not know where they come from. Old, silent wounds that have not healed. Sometimes they arise as anxiety. Other times, such as blockages, fear of exposing oneself, difficulty trusting. But most of these pains are not born of chance. They have deeper roots, often planted in childhood, in the way we were seen, or not seen, loved, or ignored. Carl Jung believed that all wounds have a function. For him, pain is a messenger, not a punishment. And the most curious thing is that many times, the month of birth holds symbolic information about the type of wound we need to face, and also about how we can heal it. It may seem strange to think so, but Jung saw time as a mirror of the soul. He believed that the moment we are born is deeply connected to our archetypes, unconscious images that shape our personality, our behavior, our emotional patterns. And within these archetypes, there are keys to healing. For example, someone who is born in April, a month associated with rebirth, courage, and the impulse to start, can symbolically carry a pain related to the rejection of their own initiative. It can be a person who grew up being pruned, taught to be silent, not to bother. Its wound may be the repression of boldness. And therefore, the cure lies precisely in regaining the right to begin, to act, to exist without guilt. Someone who is born in December, a period of closure, reflection, and spiritual connection, can carry a wound linked to the feeling of isolation, to the difficulty of being understood. It may be someone who, from an early age, had to mature too quickly, who felt the weight of other people's emotional responsibilities. And your healing may lie in allowing yourself to be welcomed, slowing down, finding lightness. These are just examples. But the point is, the month isn't just a marker of time, it's an emotional symbol. And when you dive into the meaning of your month with this look, you begin to realize that there is a silent language there trying to guide you inwards. How many times have you felt that a pain of yours was misunderstood by everyone? That no matter how hard he tried to explain, no one really understood? Maybe it was because you didn't even know where she came from. But what if your month brought a clue? For Jung, every healing process goes through an essential stage, making the unconscious conscious. That is, to bring to light what is hidden within you. And in this movement, symbolic time can be a valuable ally, because it helps you organize the pieces of your story in a more sensitive, more poetic, more truthful way. When you understand that your birth month has an energy, a calling, a quality of its own, you begin to realize at what point in life this quality was denied and how much it hurt. This perception does not come from the rational mind. It comes from the heart. It comes from that feeling of, now I understand why this has always hurt me so much. And that's where the healing begins. Not when you forget the pain, but when you recognize it as part of your journey. When you stop resisting and start listening. When you understand that the wound no longer needs to command you, it can guide you. Jung said that the wound is the place where the light enters. And this is profoundly true. When investigating the symbolism of your month, you may come across a force that was dormant. Something in you that has always existed, but that has been stifled by the demands of the world. Perhaps you realize that your sensitivity was not weakness but a gift. That his desire to isolate himself was not laziness, but a soul's request for silence. That his emotional intensity was not an exaggeration, but a portal of connection. And when you realize that, something changes. You stop attacking yourself for not being like others. You stop blaming yourself for not following the same rhythm. You begin to honor your difference. And this acceptance paves the way for healing. The victorious month, in this context, is the month that heals because it reveals. He shows you the forgotten part, the denied part, the part that still bleeds. But he also shows you how to honor her. He offers you a map, a direction. This is where you come back to yourself. And this return is not theoretical. It is felt in the body, in the choices, in the encounters. You start to say no more to what hurts you. Start saying yes more to the one who welcomes you. You understand that the past doesn't need to be repeated. That pain can become wisdom. That what was once suffering can now become a mission. This is resetting life. It's not pretending that nothing happened. It is to transform what happened into a tool. It is looking at one's own month of birth and saying, I recognize what I came to learn. I accept what hurts me. I choose to walk more lightly from now on. That choice is yours. The month may guide you, but the healing comes from your yes. And if you take this step, you will realize, even the oldest wound can become your brightest point. Some people spend their lives trying to fit in. They follow plans, goals, advice. They work hard, love as they can, fulfill roles. But even doing everything right, they still feel an emptiness that is difficult to explain. As if something important is missing, an invisible piece that never fits. Carl Jung would say that this emptiness is the echo of a soul that has not yet found itself, and that, many times, the key to this reunion is hidden in the time when you came into the world. The victorious month is more than a date. It is the starting point of your symbolic journey. It is the moment when your soul has decided to begin a new experience on earth, with all that this involves: pain, joy, falls, reunions. When you align with this month, with what it represents for your psyche, for your destiny, for your essence, you stop living as someone lost. And he starts to live as someone who remembers who he is. That reminds you why you're here. But what does it mean, in practice, to align with your month? It means honoring the qualities he brings. It means welcoming the challenges it proposes. It means living more coherently with the energy that your soul has chosen to begin its story. Imagine, for example, that you were born in February. This month symbolizes originality, freedom, breaking patterns. If you grew up trying to fit in, obey, silence your own individuality, your soul may have become disconnected from your center. But when you start allowing yourself to be who you are, even if others don't understand it, everything changes. Life answers. The flow comes back. Or maybe you were born in June, the month of sensitivity, emotional communication, the search for a true bond. But his life was marked by distancing, loss, or fear of opening up. This creates a deep blockage. However, when you decide to express what you feel, even with fear, even without guarantees, something aligns. Pain becomes a bridge, and life begins to bring more sincere relationships, more nurturing connections, situations that mirror your real self, not what you've hidden for years. This is the strength of symbolic alignment. The external reality begins to reflect your internal world. Jung said that what you resist persists, but what you accept is transformed. And to accept your month with all that it represents is to accept your soul as it is. It is to stop living as if you were born at the wrong time, in the wrong body, in the wrong life. Because, in fact, you were born exactly where you needed to be. But I hadn't heard what this birth wanted to tell you. From the moment you start living with this listening, with this respect for symbolic time, life begins to flow in a different way. Synchronicities increase. You meet people who seem to recognize you on a deep level. Opportunities arise in unexpected ways. And above all, you feel more peace. Because now, everything makes more sense. That doesn't mean there won't be pain. The path of the soul is not made of ease, but it is made of coherence. And living with coherence is what really heals. It is what brings purpose. It is what transforms pain into wisdom and loss into learning. When Jung studied myths and dreams, he saw patterns repeating themselves across cultures, times, and histories. He called these archetypes universal symbolic structures that live within all of us. And one of the most powerful archetypes is that of rebirth. The idea that, at some point, you can let die what no longer serves you, and to be born again from within. Resetting life is this. It's not about changing everything from the outside. It's changing the way you see yourself. It's to stop judging yourself. It is to stop sabotaging yourself. It's looking at your month, the one that's always been there, silent, and saying, I understand now. Come back to myself. I start again with awareness. And life listens to this new beginning. Because, as Jung said, when you commit to your inner truth, the world begins to reorganize itself around you. So, look fondly at your month. Study him, feel him, ask him what he has to tell you. Write down memories, sensations, cycles. See what is always repeated. And above all, listen to your intuition. It knows a lot more than you think. You no longer have to live on automatic. You no longer need to follow paths that do not speak to your soul. You can return at any time. And the point of return is the same starting point, your victorious month. The one who carries the first password. The one that keeps its purest essence. The one that, if you really listen, can reset your entire life.